10. 生物基因工程万魔正在出动。
All the devils are coming out of caves. Xiefeng. Edited by Care. There is no doubt that the genetic engineering now underway is of epic significance and its future is immeasurable. But when we are complacent and blindly optimistic about it, believing that each moo of a field can produce 10,000 gene of grains and each fruit tree can produce 10,000 gene of fruits, that tomatoes can be bigger than watermelons and peaches can be sweeter than honey, that pigs can weigh 100 kilograms after only half a month's growth and skin and organs can be reproduced, that a new kind of medicine will satisfy people's need for food for 3 months and needed species can be cloned, and that diseases can be eradicated and cancer can be conquered to make people enjoy unlimited longevity, who would imagine that all the devils are coming out of the caves and that we might be facing doom at any time? Genetic codes are the golden locks that maintain the relative ecological balance and stability of nature, and that prevent the devils from coming out of the caves. But once they are unlocked, the following scenes are not just to scare you because they could happen at any time. You wake up to find that some people around you have grown tails and that their features and voices have changed because they have eaten animal meat from mutant genes. You call a friend who is thousands of kilometers away, but only hear chirp chirp noises coming out of your phone. You do not know that your friend has grown feathers and a beak from his mouth because he has eaten poultry or bird meat with mutant genes. You and your guests are happily drinking tea and chatting in the living room when suddenly hundreds of cockroaches, bigger than eagles, crawl in from the kitchen because they have drunk water contaminated by specific genes. You are driving your family in your car when suddenly the road ahead disappears as tens and thousands of hills rise before you. It turns out that potatoes have absorbed the soil nutrients contaminated by specific genes and are growing wildly like hills. You are sleeping soundly one night when you are suddenly awakened by the sounds of walls collapsing and sharp screams. So you open the windows and see hundreds of large rats, bigger than dogs, running through the yard and staring at you covetously. You come home from work and turn on a national television channel to watch the news, but no matter which channel you tune to, you find nothing, not even test patterns. In fact, the country has been infected with a gene that has rapidly mutated and spread, and everyone has gone mad and died within hours. You see plants growing wildly one day and learn that their reproduction and growth rates have grown faster than ants running. They spread over highways and bridges, climb mountains, float across rivers, occupy towns and cities, climb up tall trees and skyscrapers. We must avoid catastrophes that are waiting to happen.
民主是平庸者们的追求。
Democracy is the pursuit of mediocrity. 23th, 2011. Translated by Transin and edited by Care. 3 cobblers could never exceed Zhuge Liang. Neither 3,000 nor even 30,000 cobblers could outwit him. When critical decisions are to be made, an individual of lofty vision and great strategies can outperform the collective decisions of tens of thousands of the mediocre. Democracy leads to mediocrity and to dead ends. We can illustrate this point by the several ups and downs of Chairman Mao Zedong during early 20th century Chinese history. June 1929. In the 7th CPC National Congress of the 4th Red Army held in western Fujian, Mao Zedong was forced to leave his position of the Frontline Committee Secretary of the 4th Red Army. November 1931. In the Southern Jiangxi meeting held in Yeping, Ruijin, Chairman Mao was mistakenly criticized by the party and was elbowed out of the Central Committee during the Soviet era. October 1932. At the Ningdu meeting, the chairman was excluded aside again and even lost his post of political commissar of the First Red Army. January 1934. During the Second Congress of the Soviet era, he was made a mere figurehead and removed from his position as chairman of the Central People's Committee. The result of these demotions was the gradual shrinking of red bases and the revolution ushered low tide, resulting in the failure of the Fifth Counter-Campaign against encirclement and suppression. The Red Army was forced to make a strategic shift to start the solemn and stirring move in the war history of mankind, the 25 000 Li Long March. The central base, personally created by Mao Zedong, was destroyed overnight. The whole universe is run in a unilateral manner under the one, unique, greatest creator. It is only when all life in the universe follows the will of the greatest creator that the universe can run orderly and all life can survive and live effectively. In any other way, the universe would collapse. If a cat or dog were not convinced and cried out, "Oh, greatest creator, you have been too autocratic and domineering. The throne of the greatest creator should be shared in turns, and the greatest creator should be chosen by democratic elections from the whole universe," then all would disappear. As it is with Life Genuine. If the guide were to be decided through a democratic election and if I were not elected as such, then Life Genuine would inevitably dissolve. And if that were to happen, the hopes and dreams of all the Chanyuan Celestials would become impossible to achieve. Napoleon famously said, "Nothing is more difficult and therefore more precious than to be able to decide." It is only when the chief commander makes the decisions that they can be effective and orderly. The sage embraces the one and becomes the model of the world. The greatest creator is the one in the universe. The state leader is the one in the government. The boss is the one in a company. The conductor is the one in an orchestra. This is the model of the world, and sages must comply with it. Whoever creates a business should be the boss, with all big and small decisions being made by or delegated by that boss. Question: what types of people want democracy? Answer: 8 of those types are described here. Irresponsible people. People with mediocre minds. People who scramble for power. People who do things stealthily. People who are selfish. People who shift responsibilities. People without definite views of their own. Profiteers from others' labor without sacrificing. All matters, big and small, must be managed by responsible individuals. They should be the ones to make decisions within the scope of their responsibilities. There should be no arguments, debates, discussions, or consensuses. Whenever 2 or more people jointly control anything, the result becomes a resource-consuming process with low efficiency and mutual finger-pointing, with no one ultimately being held responsible. No matter how democratic a flock of sheep is, it can never resist a wolf. No matter how democratic a group of people with mediocre wisdom is, it can never match the vision and insight of a saint. The Life Genuine era does not practice democracy, but each one has their duty and accountability. Like the 8 immortals crossing the sea, each one shows his or her special prowess. Each undertaking is in the hands of one responsible person. Others should cooperate fully and follow the exact requirements of the one in charge strictly and meticulously. If a leader cannot control their rule, but decides every affair through compromises and consolidations, then they are not being responsible and are incapable of assuming their responsibility. They are consuming and wasting everyone's time and energy, as well as their natural and human resources. Democracy always leads to mediocrity, and the wise should guard against that. But what should we do when a leader is self-willed, domineers their power, and exercises tyranny? I do not know. What do you think?
为别人而活的人最自私。
The most selfish are those who live for others. Xiefeng. July 3, 2010. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. The world always sings praises for those who live for others. Therefore, the world is full of lies and deceit. Those who claim to live for others are selfish and hypocritical. They are criminals. Everything and every life must maintain its individual character. This was the intention of the greatest creator when all was created. It is wrong for the peach tree to live for the grapevine instead of producing peaches, as not only does it lose its value as a peach tree, but it also interferes rudely with the nature and freedom of the grapevine. To be a human, one should first cherish themselves and promote their own nature and personality. If not, they disobey the will of the greatest creator. Every molecule must maintain its structure. It must be selfish, or the universe will regress to its random state. Every life must struggle to maintain itself, or they would go extinct. Every person must ensure their own survival first, or the devil wins. It is a fact that very few people live completely for others, but for themselves by nature. Anyone who claims to live for others is lying and is concealing their true, selfish nature. Is there an emperor who lives for the people within his jurisdiction? No, none. Is there a parent who lives for their children? No, none. Did Christ Jesus and the Buddha Sakyamuni live for others? No, not at all. As the guide of Life Genuine, I keep myself busy with the creation of the Life Genuine era. Do I do it for others? Not at all. I do this for my own achievement. As long as the reason for living is spelled out for everyone, we find that people live for themselves. What kind of people claim to live for others? Those who are false, crafty, incompetent, and without a sense of independence. Those who are selfish and deceitful want to impose their will on others, and those who are good at lying intend to control and disrespect others. Those who put their own faults and blame on others want to use and abuse others, and they prefer to interfere with others' lives. Those are the kind of people who claim they live for others. Let everyone live for themselves, and let everyone live upon themselves according to their own nature. In such a situation, the stars will shine brilliantly, the flowers will blossom lively, and the world will be prosperous, diverse, and splendid. Why do I say those are criminals who claim that they live for others? Firstly, they burden the spirits and souls of others because people would feel a great deal of gratitude and a need to serve them, perhaps all their lives. Secondly, they rudely interfere with the nature and freedom of others and make them feel guilt and shame, so it becomes impossible for their natures to bloom. Thirdly, they disturb the program running with Tao, create social disorder, and make lies and deception popular. It is only when everyone is responsible for themselves that they live well by themselves within their own natures and by their own styles that society will be orderly, peaceful, and warm. Only those who can stand responsibility on their own can be responsible for others, and only those who are living for themselves will respect others, be considerate of others, and understand others. Only those who live well by themselves will bring pleasure, joy, freedom, and happiness to others. If you do not know who you are, if you are an imperfect person filled with jealousy, ego, resentment, complaints, anger, and aggression, then what can you possibly bring to others? How can you live for others? If you are unable to even deal with your own issues of life and are unable to smooth away your own trouble and pain, then what can you do for others and how can you live for others? CFA advocates for everyone to be responsible for themselves first, live for themselves first, consider themselves first, live well by themselves first, and not to consider the feelings of others or lose yourself for them. Would it lead to a social disorder? Facts speak louder than words. In the second home life pattern founded by Life Genuine, nearly 100 people live together and everyone lives according to the above standard. Do not bother with others or regard other people's business, and I will not help unless help is asked for. We just consider ourselves first. How has this practice gone on for more than 9 years? Everything is in order, everyone is happy and free, and we are living in a peaceful and sociable paradise. People who want to confer benefit on society should live for themselves first, and people who want to commit sin should live for others.
知识不是力量。
Knowledge is not power. Xiefeng. October 11th, 2017. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Knowledge is a combination of the experience and cognition accumulated by our social and productive practical activities. One can possess a wealth of knowledge, which means that they possess the foundation to gain power, but no matter how much knowledge they have, it does not mean that they will ever have power. It is like a library which has abundant knowledge but no power. From the point of storing knowledge, a person's brain is only like a library. Knowledge is Power is from Meditation, written by the 17th century British philosopher Francis Bacon, which teachers delight in using to arouse students' learning interest at school. As a result, students blindly believe that as long as they learn their lessons well, which are set by schools, and as long as they grasp that knowledge, they will have the power to achieve their own pursuits and ideals after they graduate. Knowledge comes mainly from our sense organs. However, in the view of the Greek philosopher Protagoras, human is the measure of everything. This was refuted by Francis Bacon, who wrote that it is a great mistake to conclude that our limited sense organs measure all things. In other words, it is wrong to judge and measure all things and all forms from the limited knowledge that our sense organs can provide. Consider a scenario in which a sexy young girl with a middle school diploma is standing next to a more mature, older lady with a doctorate degree, and both are in front of an interviewer. Which one is more likely to arouse the man's rich imagination, alter his mood, and motivate his intense vitality? If it is the young girl, that is because knowledge is not true power, since even beauty can have more power. It is reckless and dangerous to believe that knowledge is power. Not only is it a cognitive misconception, but also a thinking one. For example, to accept that when a son is grown, he takes a wife, and when a girl is mature, she finds a husband, as a life knowledge is bound to bring anguish and suffering throughout their whole lives. This knowledge has led people to make such common mistakes for thousands of years, but which accomplish no good. Some more are. There are 3 forms of unfilial conduct, but the worst is to have no descendants. Filial piety is the most important of all virtues. Lewdness is the worst of all sins. He who does not endure hardship cannot stand up to others. Another example is how education and guidance are passed from parents to their children. Can a parent's knowledge conduct and educate their children with both a full range of healthy spirits, minds, and bodies, as well as the ability to lead their own independent lives? Most fall very short. When great changes take place in objective knowledge, but we stubbornly insist on applying our traditional knowledge, we will certainly be rebuffed. Look at various religious dogmas and concepts. As they feel a loss of power, they become reactionary, resist social development, and impede natural human liberation. In fact, prejudices and fallacy are knowledge. What are the benefits of such knowledge? None. Our most powerful intellectual force is the power of flexible and tactful thinking. I believe firmly that Albert Einstein's power came not from his knowledge, but from his thinking. How would I perceive the universe if I were riding on a beam of light? Those who read more and get more diplomas and more experience, but form rigid ways of thinking, have rarely been found to wield much power. Lasting power comes from neither knowledge nor from powerful economic strength and national defense forces, but from sincerity, kindness, virtue, love, faith, and honesty. Sincere deeds have power, kind behavior has power, things of virtue have power, love is a powerful force, honest quality has power, people who keep their words and their faith have power. Conclusion. Knowledge must be learned and accumulated, but knowledge has limitation, danger, and can be reactionary. Never believe blindly that having knowledge is synonymous with having power. Rather than spending your precious time on chasing knowledge, you would be well advised to concentrate your efforts on sincerity, kindness, virtue, love, faith, and honesty, for those are the people who will enjoy lasting power. Meanwhile, take pains to develop your way of thinking by never spending time and effort reciting your former knowledge, or stubbornly judging and adapting to a changing, living reality with dead, prejudicial knowledge.
思维是一种法力。
Thinking is a magical power. Xiefeng. August 16, 2005. Translated by Treasure and edited by Care. Sun Wukong was pressed for more than 500 years at the foot of the Five-Element Mountain, but after the Tang priest took the post away from the top of the mountain with Om Mani Padme Hum, he was able to break out. It seemed that the weight of the post was more than that of the Five-Element Mountain. So what was the post and how did it have such great power? Some people cannot be crushed by great hardships or difficulties, but when their hopes are dashed, they will collapse easily. Some people who are unaware that they have a horrible disease can live happy lives every day, but once they find out the truth, they become paralyzed from the knowledge. There was a young boy in my village of about 11 or 12 years, and every time he crossed a bridge on his way home from school, he would scream with a pale face, even in the daytime. We eventually discovered that the reason for this behavior was that he had overheard some adults in the village talking about ghosts without heads residing under all small bridges. People's casual words controlled his thinking like a spell. The above are extreme examples. In fact, our thinking is more or less confined by some incantations. Consider the 8 kinds of suffering described in Buddhism: birth, aging, illness, death, encountering enmity and hatred, separation from a loved one, inability to attain what is pursued. The 5 aggregates. These all result from our conventional thinking, but none would exist if we would embrace unconventional thinking. All laws, regulations, concepts, ethics and behavioral rules, authoritative theories and sermons, religious regulations and rituals, scientific theories and methods, and exemplary models and habits are magical powers that constrain our thinking. These magical powers benefit the maintenance of social stability greatly, but they also bind our minds, and ordinary people can never be freed from them any more than fish can be freed from water. What are magical powers? They are informational waves that restrain people's thinking. When their energy is greater than the energy of our own conscious informational waves, then we are controlled by them. Thinking is a magical power. Thinkings of God, Buddha, great people, and great scientists are all magical powers which ordinary people can do nothing about unless their wisdom and thinking abilities exceed them. Thinking seems to be invisible, traceless, and illusory, but it can actually change the developmental directions and forms of objects, transform the intangible into the tangible and the tangible into the intangible, and interfere with a person's conventional thinking.
人与人的特殊关系会毁掉前程。
Special relationships between people will ruin their lives. Xiefeng. March 15, 2019. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Care. How many times have we watched quietly the sunrises and sunsets in our lives, and how many times have we listened to the sounds of wind and insects while standing in a courtyard on an evening with a full moon? How many times have we observed carefully the sprouting of grass and the blooming of willows? When distant mountains are hazy and the green hills are dark, when water is gurgling and blue waves are rippling, when wild ducks flutter and mandarin ducks play in the water, when light rain drizzles or heavy rain beats the plantains, have we ever melted our bodies and souls into nature and felt an unforgettable experience and taste of oneness with nature, oneness with all things, and everlasting, eternal joy? Where has our time gone? What on earth are we doing in this world? Were it not for the deep experience of the meaning of life, then what are we hurrying for all our lives? When flowers fall and beauty becomes old, death separates them forever. The palaces of Qin and Han are now but grazing land for cattle and sheep. Who cares for the cold and lonely west wind? Yellow leaves rustle down by my closed windows facing the sunset. I am lost in memories. Do you not see the mirrors bright in chambers high, grieving over your snow-white hair that once was silk black? How much worry can you have? Just like a river of spring water flowing eastward. Why are we busy all day? Who are we busy for? Are we not colonizing a snail's horn, competing for a flash in time? Is it not that, down in the plain and up on the mountain, all of nature's boundless glory is their prey, but when they have sipped from 100 flowers and made honey, for whom is this toil? For whom is this nectar? Is it not that my clothes hang loosely on my emaciated body, but regrets I have none? It is because of her? Is it not that the young know nothing of woe? To write verse, they feign a throe? Broken walls where foxes sleep, deserted platforms where rabbits walk, all were places of singing and dancing in those days. Yellow flowers covered with cold dew, withering grasses looming in mist, all belong to the battlefields of the old times. When we are old and weak, looking back on the past, will there be regrets? Who took away our teenage time? Who killed our youth? Who made our middle age toil around? Who made us full of sorrow after the age of 60? The answer is that it was those with whom we had special relationships. They were our parents, children, grandchildren, husbands, wives, friends, lovers, brothers, sisters, buddies, and the rest. Whoever made us worry about, think about day and night, hard to sleep, hate but could not rid ourselves of, and so on. All the people who have had special relationships with us. It is they who have made our lives miserable and distressed, who made us restless and fighting day and night, who forced us to remain on our guard day and night and tremble in fear, who forced us to break the law, take risks, and made us unable to eat or sleep. Think carefully. If you would not worry about anyone, if no one in the world would make you worry about them, if you lived on an uninhabited island with plenty of food, and if no one cared whether you lived or died, would you still live this way? Have you ever heard of a punishment method called the implication of 9 generations of families? A young child or a servant woman to a family would be killed because the boy's father or the woman's master made a mistake. Why? Because this child had a special relationship with his father, or this servant had a special relationship with her master. That is the reason that they would be killed. Have you heard of landslide-style corruption? A provincial governor was arrested, and everyone who had a special relationship with and was implicated with them was also imprisoned. Have you heard the story of the man who traveled all the way to Australia to kill a woman? Why did he do that? Because she and he had a special relationship. Once you have a special relationship with someone, their food, clothing, shelter, transportation, life, aging, illness, death, love and hate, frustration and adversity, violations of the law and nightmares, sighs and groans, and pains and itching will all be closely related to you and involve your mood and state of mind to affect your future. Why do people yearn for life in heaven? Because in heaven, there are no special relationships between people. People in the 1,000-year world never know who their fathers are, and after spending a few years with their mother, they never see them again. There are no relationships between brothers and sisters, no need to make friends, and no need or possibility to form relationships. People in the 10,000-year world have no biological parents. On the Celestial Islands continent, no special relationships exist between any two individuals. People are keen to build relationships, develop connections, forge friendships, bond with lovers, and form buddies, but in my opinion, they are looking for trouble, pain, anxiety, and sorrow. In a word, they are looking for death, the death of life in the kingdom of heaven. That is to say that once a person begins to form special relationships with others in their consciousnesses and actions, whether they are of emotions or interests, the person will gradually drift away from heaven. Then, is there any way or mechanism to make everyone live happily and beautifully without having special relationships? Yes. Were this not so, I would not dare to say this, but I am also afraid of being scolded by people.
促人奋进是魔鬼的伎俩。
Pushing people to forge ahead is doing the devil's trick. Xiefeng. December 26, 2018. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. The kind of individual that each person is and how many blessings and sins they will enjoy throughout their lifetime is a definite number. What kind of achievements each person will rise to is a certainty, whom each person is destined to meet and fall in love with, and who they will encounter and torture are all part of their life's trajectory. Whether you want to be a singer, a politician, a scientist, an artist, a high-ranking official, have lots of wealth, a thief, a beggar, or whatever else has already been written into the script. You cannot just be whoever you want to be. Similarly, who can become a celestial being or Buddha, who can become a monster or demon, who will fly to heaven, and who will fall to hell have long been decided. When a person gets sick, what kind of diseases they will have when they will be born, and when and how they will die have all been determined in the process of life. What kind of life a person can live, and whether they are rich or poor have also been determined, and no one can escape the arrangement of the cosmic script. If you fertilize, water, and maintain a Chinese cabbage, it will grow very plump and fat, but in no case can it become lettuce. Feed a sheep more grass and grain, and it will grow fat, but it will never become a cow. Do not bother with a giraffe's neck, it will grow long naturally. Do not tell lions how to catch zebras, they will figure it out. Do not teach mice how to dig holes, they are born to dig them. Prompting people to forge ahead, encouraging them to achieve things, teaching them how to become successful, grooming them to become officials and make fortunes, instigating them to glorify and illuminate their ancestors, to be outstanding, and so forth are all like teaching hens how to crow or asking bulls to produce milk. Not only is it useless, but it is also the same as compelling a woman to engage in prostitution. Its profound meaning is, go to your death, work hard to die. Look, the grave is not far away, run to it quickly. So, promoting people to forge ahead is a devil's trick. According to Apple Daily, more than 260 officials and corporate executives over the last 5 years have taken their lives by shooting themselves, cutting their wrists, drowning themselves, hanging from beams, jumping off buildings, and lying on rails. All these people were successful and outstanding, but what were their results? Had they been allowed to choose their path again, would they still work so hard to become so successful? Can we see how their past hard work was actually leading them to their deaths? Do you think that the higher an official's rank, the happier and freer they will be? Do you think that the more money they earn, the more freedom and happiness they will enjoy? Do you think that becoming the chairman of a board or a president is joyful? Do you think that the more powerful and capable people you associate with, you will have a better and more satisfactory life? Wrong. The more you possess, the more troubles and pains you will have. Barefoot people and those who wear high-class leather shoes, who are happier? Children with bare butts playing in the mud and those who practice hard, dress in fashionable clothes, and play pianos on stages, who are happier? I used to live in Binka, the most backward area of Zimbabwe, Africa, where most children do not wear shoes. Under the moonlight at night, in the middle of dozens of simple thatched huts, there were bonfires with young people beating drums. The children were jumping and laughing around those bonfires, and a few thin dogs were running around and barking. At that moment, I understood what happiness meant. I lived with a primitive tribe in the Pacific island nation of Vanuatu. During the day, many people would sit or lie down chatting in shabby houses with air leaks on all sides, or sit or lie down drinking tea in the shade of the outdoor courtyard. They live like this for more than half of each year, and who can say that they are not happy? It is said that a wealthy person once came to relax in a seaside resort. They saw a fisherman lying on the bow of his boat every day enjoying the sunlight after having caught only a few fish. The wealthy vacationer felt that this was a waste of good time, so they showed kindness and went to teach the fisherman how to succeed. They told the fisherman that he should hurry up every day to catch and sell more fish, and then if he got enough money, he could form a fishing team to catch even more fish, and then he could set up a fish processing factory. In this way, in a few years, the fisherman could become wealthy and successful. The fisherman asked, "What would I do if I become wealthy?" The rich one replied, "When you have money, you can come to the beach to enjoy your vacation like me." The fisherman asked again, "What do you think I am doing now? Why do you want to forge ahead? Why do you want to be diligent? Why do you have to work hard? Why do you want to be a winner? Is it not good enough to just live in compliance with nature? Life only lasts for 100 years, if that. Playing in the mud in childhood, chasing members of the opposite sex and playing around in your early youth, going to school when you were young, falling in love and working in your prime, drinking tea and chatting when you are old, and watching flowers bloom and fade in your old age. Is this not a good life? Mice dig holes, cats catch mice, seedlings strive to grow, and fruit trees bear fruit. But what about people? Without instigation and encouragement, they will naturally follow their lives' paths. If someone loves to learn, there is no need to urge them on because they will definitely learn. If they love to work, then they will definitely study technology and work hard. But if they deserve to be a boss, without instigation, they would definitely be uneasy working as an employee. If they would like to steal or rob, it would be useless for you to attempt to instill morality and ethics into them. If they want to be a saint, they will study the philosophy of saints and understand the truth of the universe. It is a waste of effort for you to attempt to bring a saint into the world. If they want to become a celestial being or Buddha, they will naturally look for the environment conducive to that end, and nothing can stop them. 20 years ago, I read Napoleon Hill's The Complete Book of Success. I became very ambitious and wanted to earn more money. As a result, I was deceived and defrauded out of more than 400,000 RMB yuan. From then on, I have hated success. For more than 20 years, I have been studying and finally found that promoting people to forge ahead is the devil's trick. Someone might ask, you, Xiefeng, write articles day and night to create Life-Chanuan and Chanyuan homes. Are you not working hard? My answer is that I love it. No one urges me to do it. I would like to be like this, but if someone urges me to work hard, I will tell them to go to hell, you a better. Can a hen lay eggs if she has none in her belly? If she has eggs in her belly, can she not lay them?
花心之心最真心。
An amorous heart is the truest heart. Xiefeng. March 11th, 2019. Translated by Qinyu and edited by Care. People are amorous, so amorosity is the true color of the human heart. Forms give birth to souls and souls give birth to all phenomena. For either a beautiful woman facing 10,000 handsome men or a handsome man facing 10,000 beautiful women, 10,000 infatuations will blossom. The world praises the love of loyalty and concentration, but in fact, this is not in line with reality. It goes against people's hearts. The human world has created monogamy where one man and one woman are expected to love each other throughout their lifetimes. But this does not match the human heart. From the perspective of human nature, a man will never love only one woman throughout his life, and a woman will never want to eat from only one apple tree throughout her whole life. The reason why today's world is filled with worry, pain, anxiety, and sorrow is that people have not returned to their Tathagata nature. Amorosity is the Tathagata nature. The true color is the Tathagata nature. People hide behind masks, so how can they not worry and hurt each other? Not only do people wear their own masks, but they also maintain and praise them and threaten and induce others to wear them, kidnap the Tathagata nature with morals and ethics, and create religious doctrines to restrict people from showing their true colors. This is all really terrible. Where there are chronic sicknesses, there are no dutiful children at bedsides. This is reality, but why have people praised and maintained filial piety for thousands of years? Why have they not faced reality? Most children and grandchildren are unreliable. Very few are reliable. All men long for immortality, yet having sons will not achieve this. Although fond parents are legion, who ever saw a really filial son? If children and grandchildren are unreliable, then how can husbands and wives be reliable? All men long to be immortal yet dote on the wives they wed who swear to love them forevermore, but remarry as soon as they are gone. If they leave after you die, this can be considered their loyalty, and you must have burned some incense in your previous life. Most wives leave before their husbands die. Even if you have not gone, they long in their hearts for your death. If they do not long for your death, then they must still need something from you. Marriages and families have always been a devil's program, a curse, and this curse has kidnapped people for thousands of years. Here is a simple way to identify whether a program is angelic or satanic. It is the input and feedback method. If we reap melons from melon seeds or beans from bean seeds, then we are given the feedback on what we have entered into the program, and this program is angelic. On the contrary, if we reap beans from melon seeds or melons from bean seeds, then this program is satanic. What we enter and the feedback we receive are not the same, or even opposites. In the satanic program, if you input love, you will get hate. If you input true feelings, you will get false love. If you input hope, you will get disappointment or even despair. Too much falseness fills the world. If falseness is taken as truth, then truth is said to be lies. When nothing is taken as being, then being itself is turned into nothing. Since our grandparents' grandparents, we have reversed the truth from the false. So the children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren regard false as true and true as false. The real is pressed under the 5 elements mountain, and the fake is rampant in all directions. So people have to suffer hardships, disasters, and pain, and they are hard-pressed to be enlightened to go to heaven. The human heart was originally amorous. The so-called, "I will love only you for my entire life," is a lie and a scam which exists for short times under certain circumstances, but when those circumstances change slightly, the fox's tail will be exposed. The man who says that when he is poor and helpless is telling the truth, but if says the same thing after his social and economic status improve dramatically, then he is lying and deceiving. The same is true for women. It is impossible to love only you for my entire life, because human hearts are amorous. If a bright and eye-catching flower blooms only for Zhang San, but it wilts immediately when seeing Li Si, Wang Wu, and Zhao Lu, then I want to ask you if it is still a flower? No, it is not, but rather a monster's spirit. Are people still human if they smile when they see a certain other person, but immediately cross their eyebrows when they see other people? No, they are not humans but evildoers. What men are indifferent to beautiful women? What women are unimpressed by handsome men? If there are such people, then they are not really people, but wood or stone, sculptural robots. Since this world has always been perplexed and deceived by falsities, we cannot know what the truth is. We have already mixed the false with the genuine, so we cannot know that amorous hearts are the truest ones. That is to say that anyone who truly loves you must also love the world, because anyone who does not love the world will never love any individual. To narrow the scope, women who love many men and men who love many women will give birth to true love, because their hearts are true and the love of which they speak is true. There are absolutely no marriages or families in heaven. How do we arrange our lives without them? I can tell you that I have found a way to live a better life than married and in a family. Not only have I found it, but I have also opened it up. We are all expected to live paradisical lives on earth, and not only that, but also have a chance to go to the real paradise. I have designed a game of being a groom every day and a bride every night for everyone. The game will be launched soon. If you participate in it, then you will definitely find that amorous hearts are the truest hearts.
意识决定存在。
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Xiefeng. Translated by Qinyu. Edited by Peter. Whether existence determines consciousness, or consciousness determines existence, is a type of watershed between materialism and idealism. Human beings have not yet had a correct understanding of this issue until now. Jumping to a conclusion rashly will definitely cause confusion in people's minds. If we divide the population into 5 categories: ignorant people, laities, mortals, sages, and saints, immortals, and then according to the attitudes of people of each level towards the material world, we can clearly understand the reason why some people believe that existence determines consciousness, while others are convinced that consciousness determines existence. Ignorant people live by instinct. Although they belong to the family of human beings, they are not much different from animals. They don't know what creation and thinking are. As long as things are necessary for their survival, they will just grab them. If they are put on a deserted island, they will only die. So, for ignorant people, existence determines everything. Without existence, there is nothing. Laities are people who live by their desires. The central content of their lives is money, status, power, reputation, and beauty. They live for these desires all their lives. Once they don't get the above, they will suffer terribly. For laities, existence determines their consciousness, and their daily activities have a clear purpose and goal, which is how to obtain existence. Without the seduction of factors such as money, laities cannot live a single day. Mortals live by affection. The core content of their lives is family affection, relatives and friends, colleagues and classmates, group and clan, country and nation. With these, they can live a flavorful life. Without these, they will feel alone, bored, empty, and lonely. Therefore, for mortals, it is still existence that determines consciousness, and without existence, their consciousness will collapse. Sages are people who live by reason. They are people who often ask why, people who want to understand the essence behind superficial phenomena, existence. Existence is the basis of sages' consciousness. Without this basis, they cannot think deeply. People such as scientists in various fields, philosophers, and thinkers all belong to the category of sages. Although existence is the basis of the consciousness of sages, they also pay more attention to the reaction of consciousness to existence. Therefore, for sages, existence and consciousness are equally important. Because they devote more time and energy to the field of consciousness than on the basis of existence, sages tend to become the best among human beings. Saints, immortals, are people who rely on spirituality. What is perceived through sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch is not important to them. What is important is what is realized through their spiritual sense. Spiritual perception is purely an activity of consciousness. So, for immortals, it is consciousness that determines existence. To sum it up, for ignorant people, laities, and mortals, existence determines consciousness. If you tell them, consciousness determines existence, it is like casting pearls before swine. They might even give you a back kick. For sages, existence is equivalent to consciousness. There is no question of who decides what. For immortals, consciousness determines existence. If we tell immortals that existence determines consciousness, they can only think that we are ignorant. Then, does existence determine consciousness, or does consciousness determine existence? First, let's take a look at all the things created by human beings. Like cars, how did cars appear on Earth? There are no cars on the Earth, so how could cars appear out of thin air? What? It turns out that people first imagined it in their consciousness, and then created it according to the imagination in their consciousness. How did the first house appear on the Earth? What? It is also people who first imagined a house structure, and then recreated it according to the imagined structure. How did fashion become popular? What? It turns out that fashion designers first realized it in their brains, and then made it to guide the trend. It can be deduced from this that all things created by human beings are firstly imagined in human consciousness, and then created according to their imaginations. If people had no imagination, that is, no thinking and no consciousness, then all the artificial objects that we use today would not have appeared. This clearly proves that consciousness determines existence. Without human consciousness, how can there be so many artificial things on the Earth? Let's look at the dwelling places of human beings and the natural environment. When we enter someone's home, someone who loves to be clean and tidy, we see that the tables, chairs, and beds are arranged in an orderly manner. Whether it is the pictures on the wall or the flowers cultivated on the windowsill, they all give people the feeling of being natural, harmonious, beautiful, and suitable. Why is this happening? Oh, it turns out that the owner of this house has a clear spatial layout in her consciousness. The orderly existence of everything in her house was first imagined in her consciousness. If her consciousness is chaotic, she may put the coffee table on the table, and she can't think of planting a few pots of flowers and placing them on the windowsill. Over the past 10 years, I have observed the residences of many people in Zimbabwe. Generally, the living environment of Caucasians is clean, tidy, and orderly. Their lawns are always neatly mowed. Their flowers are always beautiful, and plants are always verdant and green. Even their washrooms, toilets, are full of flowers, and you will never spot oil stains in their kitchens. Looking at the environment of our Chinese people, weeds are overgrown in the courtyard. Dog excrement is everywhere. The washroom smells bad. Cockroaches are rampant in the kitchen, and the stove is greasy. Why is there such a big difference? Aren't they all human? It turns out that the difference lies not in existence, but in consciousness. Chinese and Caucasians have different consciousness of the environment. The quality of the living environment depends on the consciousness of the people in this environment. If there is a good consciousness, there will be a good environment. Without a good consciousness, of course it is impossible to have a good environment for existence. My child once used his vacation to drive to Washington and New York by himself. I asked him on the phone, "What is your biggest impression after seeing New York?" Unexpectedly, he replied, New York's Chinatown is too dirty and messy. It does not match the civilization and prosperity of New York. Can it be that existence determines consciousness? If a Chinese has lived in China from beginning to end, it can be barely said that the existence of the dirty, disorderly, and bad surrounding environment leads to the dirty, disorderly, and bad living environment of his own. But after we came to a beautiful country, where the existence is beautiful, why does the environment change when we live there? Isn't it that our consciousness determines our existence? Suppose we Chinese exchange with Japanese and Germans. We all live in Japan and Germany and let Japanese and Germans live in China. Within 50 years, China will become the most beautiful and graceful country in the world, while Japan and Germany will become too dirty, disorderly, and bad countries. Consciousness determines existence, and what kind of consciousness is there, there will be that kind of existence. If everyone is belligerent, the world will be in a constant state war. If everyone loves peace, how could there be wars?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Look at Islamic mosques, Christian churches, and Buddhist temples. Their architectural styles and shapes are quite different. Why? Because the consciousness of designers and builders is different from each other.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
When comparing the urban layouts of Harare, the capital of Zimbabwe, and Beijing, the capital of China, Harare's commercial, industrial, and residential areas are clearly separated, with a distance of at least 1 kilometer from each other, while Beijing's commercial, residential, and industrial areas are almost intertwined. The reason for the formation of this pattern of existence is that the British and the Chinese have different consciousness of people, and it is the different consciousness that determines the different urban layouts.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
When comparing the wearing and the style of dress of women during the Chinese Cultural Revolution and the wearing and style of dress of people at this present stage, from the perspective of time and space, they are definitely two different worlds. During the Cultural Revolution, women did not bother to perm, dye their hair, draw their eyebrows, and put on lipstick. Even their clothes were mostly yellow, gray, and blue. Skirts and high-heeled shoes were absolutely not allowed. About their breasts, they would find ways to press them tightly to their chest. If you budged a little, people would look at you differently, and you would be regarded as a hot, foxy spirit descending on the world, a symbol of restlessness and flirting. Look at today's women, one by one. They are more enchanting and beautiful, with all kinds of postures, styles, curvaceous beauty, sexual beauty, and temperamental beauty that is fully displayed, living out their individuality, freedom, and elegance, as if all the fairies in heaven have descended to the world. The reason why different eras have different ways of dressing is that people in different eras have different consciousness, and it is the consciousness of different eras that determines the existence of those different eras.
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why is the population of the United States growing more slowly than that of China and India? Why do couples with higher IQs, who are richer, and with higher education levels have fewer children, while poorer, less educated couples have more children? Why can a man have several wives in some countries and regions, while most countries and regions can only be monogamous? Why could a couple in our previous generation have many children, but we can only have one child at this stage of China? Aren't all these differences determined by our human consciousness?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why are most of the Nobel Prize winners Americans? Why is there not a single Nobel Prize winner from mainland China? Are Americans so smart and Chinese so stupid? The main reason is that Americans and Chinese have different consciousness. If you want to eat hamburgers, you will definitely not make noodles. If you want to eat chicken, you definitely won't put pork into the pot. The reason is so simple. Do we still doubt that consciousness determines existence?
Conscious ne déterminer existence.
Why do the political systems of various countries in the world differ from each other? Why does the President of the United States only serve 2 terms at most, while the presidents of some countries can serve many terms? Isn't it their existence determined by the national consciousness of various countries? How was the Earth born? How did the plants and animals on Earth appear? Isn't this determined by the consciousness of the greatest creator? Not long ago, I read a review article. Its general meaning is to criticize the only children in China at this stage for being ambitious, unrealistic, greedy for enjoyment, and for their wishful thinking. The article also mentioned a college student who had not yet graduated describing his long-term plan. I want to go to the United States and build a villa in a small city with beautiful mountains and rivers. I want to have a green lawn, a private swimming pool, and a Mercedes-Benz. The reviewer had a good-natured ridicule on this wishful thinking and hoped that such college students can face reality, be down to earth, and not be too ambitious. In my opinion, this commenter is an outstanding representative of the idea that existence determines consciousness. His thinking is still in the narrow field of material existence. He only sees today, values reality, and he cannot imagine that the future of mankind is determined by the consciousness of mankind, that the future of each individual is determined by the consciousness of the individual. This kind of person is a frog at the bottom of a well, and the blue sky he sees is just as big as a sieve. Relying on this kind of person to guide young people is not only misleading young people, but also cruelly oppressing people's spirituality and ruining their bright future. Such people, on the surface, are kind, but in essence, are evil. If I were to comment on this college student, I would say, "Son, you're absolutely right. Visualize it. Your wish will come true." The better and clearer the picture you have of your future in your mind, the more likely you are to realize it. The place you can see is where you are going. The situation you can realize in your brain is where you can go, because your behavior is controlled by your consciousness. If you want to go to the east, your feet can't move toward the west. The existence of reality is constantly changing with the consciousness of human beings. If we limit our consciousness to the existence of reality, we will always be slaves to the existence of reality, and we will never be able to create a better tomorrow. Son, the universe is boundless. There are 36 dimensional spaces. So spread the wings of your imagination and fly freely. A bright future belongs to the generation that can imagine this. Whether existence determines consciousness or consciousness determines existence, it is by no means a game of words or concepts, and it is by no means a question of whether to eat steamed buns or noodles. Whoever comes first directly determines the future of everyone. What kind of consciousness one has, he will have that kind of life. What kind of consciousness determines what kind of existence he will have. Existence determines consciousness is the thinking of animals and plants that rely on instinct to survive. Consciousness determines existence is the thinking of sages and saints, and the thinking of gods and Buddhas. If existence determines consciousness, we have only one Earth. If consciousness determines existence, we will have 36 dimensional spaces. If existence determines consciousness, we can only survive in the contradictions and pains of reality forever. If consciousness determines existence, we can transcend the existence of reality and focus on future development and changes. If existence determines consciousness, we can only passively be constrained by the environment. If consciousness determines existence, we can actively open up a sunshine avenue in the existence of reality. If existence determines consciousness, we cannot see the brilliance of the greatest creator, and we can only live to die. If consciousness determines existence, we can decipher the mysteries of the time and space of the universe, extend this limited life to the infinite wonderful time and space, and then we can die to be reborn. Existence determines consciousness is conventional thinking. Consciousness determines existence is unconventional thinking, and a bright future belongs to people with unconventional thinking.